Okay, 2-second coffee. Here we go. What do we need? We're gonna start with some instant coffee. The reason we also lean into this, it is more expensive than lots, but it's the way that it's sourced is a huge part of that, and also the quality of the coffee that you're going to be tasting. So I think with instant coffee, I think it's always had its place. It was a really innovative way for people to be consuming coffee. And it came about at a time where we didn't have much time, we didn't have that time for leisure. We also didn't know much about coffee, where it was from, how it tasted. Where we're trying to go with something specialty like this and the way that we can move with that is actually this one is a single origin Colombian coffee. And so that's really exciting. You can start to move around. You know that the farm and the farmer has been looked after. I think I can honestly tell you that this will be the first time I've actually drunk an instant coffee in a very long time. Yeah. I mean, considering that took 2 seconds to brew, and so instant, and I can feel like I can see a lot of versatility in when it is. I'm still someone who loves to take way too many things with me wherever I go to brew coffee, but that is the next best thing, yeah. Now we're gonna run through espresso. Probably the most commonly consumed out-of-home coffee beverage, I would say. So we're going to run a shot through. I'm going to show you all the different steps that are involved there, and we're going to see what our first shot pulls at. Excellent. So as you can see, our handles are in our machine. One of the reasons for that is we're trying to keep our handles the same temperature as the water that's going to be flowing through them. Once again, just eliminating a variable there. We're going to bring our handle over. We're going to place it on our scales and we're going to tear that off. So once again, taking the weight of that handle away, because what we want is 19 grams of coffee. We're going to place our handle in here. We'll let that grind. We're very lucky with this machine. You can see it's beautiful, puffy, powdery coffee. And what that means is that we're going to get a nice even extraction. There should be no clumps. Bring it out. We're just going to give it a little tap to settle some of that. You can already see some of the height that lost. We're going to put that on the scales and see where we're at. We're at 18.8 grams, which is within our 0.2 gram variance. And we're going to use a little tool called a distributor. The idea behind the distributor here is, as you can see with the coffee, we have a little bit of a mountain and then we have some dips. We're wanting to give that a nice homogeneous top there before we then go apply pressure and do what we call tamping. Now bring that over the edge, put this on the end there and give that a nice wee swirl until it runs freely. What you can see we have now is a nice polished top there and ready to tamp. What we have here is a puck press. Now this is designed to deliver exactly the same amount of pressure every time. So from here, in an ideal world, all of that's being done in probably less than 10 seconds, and we're bringing it back to our group head. We have the privilege here of using the linear PB, which uses water wheels and pulses to register how much water is being delivered over a certain period of time. And so we have programmed this to deliver the exact amount of water that we need to deliver the amount of espresso out the other end. That's our espresso base, and so if you're ordering a short black or an espresso, that's what you're getting. However, in New Zealand we do love a flat white, and so we're going to add milk to this one. What we're wanting to do here is we're adding both heat and texture to the milk. First thing we want to do is just purge our steam wand. What I mean by that is just turning it on for a wee second. And what we're doing is just ridding any condensation or line buildup that we have going on. We're going to bring the steam wand directly in front of me here. We're going to place our milk jug in directly again, bring that down to a level I can comfortably see, and we're going to pivot off to the side, creating a whirlpool. What we're going to do is I'm going to swirl this a decent amount here, just incorporating some of those bubbles that maybe I missed right at the start. We can tap out any bigger bubbles there, using our other cloths here to wipe up. And I'm just going to pour a small amount off to get me ready to pour. What we are going to do, we're going to add a very small amount of milk to the crema in the bottom of the cup there, and we're going to swirl. The reason for this, we're creating a nice beautiful homogeneous color on top, We're also blending some of the sweetness of the milk with the bitterness of the coffee, which is giving us a beautiful first sip. So as we've agitated that, we're then going to pour straight into the middle, and from up high, you can see that the majority of the texture that we're adding there is just milk. And then as I come down low and angle, we're able to get some of that foam out on top and work with the patterns. When we've got our mad rush on, we've got all of that going on, and it's about 30 seconds of coffee that we're pumping those out in. And so as we're working on that sort of idea, I think it's appreciating that when you do come to that, take that first sip of your coffee. I mean, a good old Kiwi flat white, you can't go wrong. I also really love this mug. I think there's something really nice about the vessel that you drink out of. This is one I've brought in from home. It's one of my favorite cafes up in Auckland called Daily. They're doing an absolutely outstanding job and meticulous about everything, including this anniversary mug, where I think it's just got the lines, it's beautiful, it's thin, and it just makes the drinking experience all that much better. So now we're going to do 20-minute coffee. The idea behind the 20-minute coffee for me is really about taking a breather, taking a step back and looking at the ritual of brewing coffee, and it's a moment to slow down, take it on board. So versus brewing espresso or instant coffee where we're looking at fast pace on the go, what we're looking for here is how do we slow it down, how do we savor all the moments, and how do we think about what's going on here. What we're looking at here is non-bypass brewing, which is just a very elaborate way of saying we don't let the water escape without passing through the coffee. So key features for this one is really the straight walls and the dispersion screen up the top, along with very, very expensive, crazy lab paper here, which helps with our filtration process. What we're doing is we're just adding it here. We're making sure that that paper filter has been fully rinsed and that it's sitting nice and flat. Okay, so we don't want the coffee to be able to go any which way around it. And so, as we've done this, we move this off to the side here. We're now going to weigh out the coffee. So, as I mentioned earlier, weighing things and being scientific about all of this is quite important. Now, we're going to weigh out 15 grams. What we're going to do, pour our weighed out coffee in the top here. I always dose a little bit over because we assume there will always be some grind retention in the grinder. Okay, we're going to pull that across. And that's now ground that coffee. Before I turn it off, I'm going to give this a few taps. And the reason for that, we're wanting to get rid of any static that's holding any coffee up there. This is precious commodity stuff. We've got our ground coffee, we've got our pre-wet filter here, we have got everything on our scales, and we've got our temperature controlled water here. So the water for this brew is going to be running at 96 degrees. However, there's many different methods and different ideas behind it. Today we're just going to show you the basics of this. So I'm going to go by double checking my dose here. So like I said, I want 15 grams of coffee. So I'm going to start the brew here, and what we're going to do first is something called blooming. Okay, so I'm going to add 50 grams here. As I add my 50 grams, I'm going to let that come through, and we're going to just roll this around very gently. And what the coffee is doing here is degassing, but at the same time as that, we're making sure that there's an even wetting of all of the coffee grounds. And think about it a little bit like when you're a kid and you made Milo and you had too much Milo in the cup there, you mix it up and you had those clumps of Milo in the mug or in your glass, depending if you had it hot or cold. Just going to continue brewing here. We're at 30 seconds. So now what I want to do is continue to brew all the way, continue to pour all of the water in, no particular fashion, up to 330 grams for this particular recipe. Cool. Once I'm finished there, I'm just going to give it one last, what we call agitation, which is giving it that nice swirl. And we're going to leave that to do its thing.
For how long?
As long as it takes. So we've finished brewing here. We're going to just take the top off here. It's a really nice and easy process to clean that one as well. So we're just going to leave it off to the side. Just going to cap it. And as you can see, I've got 2 mugs here, and I think that's really because it speaks a lot to this sort of style and enjoyment of coffee is sharing this with someone. That can be sharing it with yourself and just really taking your time, but I invite you to share it with me. It's such a nice way to stop and slow down and really appreciate a lot of, I guess, the nuanced flavors in coffee. We quite often think of coffee, particularly in this country, as around intensity, and intensity meaning flavor. And although that is correct, this brings around a lot more subtleties. You sort of start moving into that sort of wine vocabulary around what you're drinking. You're focused a bit more on terroir, obviously another sort of wine term, focusing on where it's been grown and soil types and harvest and plant types and all those sorts of things. And so that's the journey you go on here, and that's why it's nice to take your time, really appreciate, and get stuck into it. So on that, cheers. I mean, that's just lovely. Coffee's doing so much better in this space overseas than what it's doing in New Zealand, and I think part of that is that it's been ingrained in our culture for so long. I mean, our coffee culture goes back to the 90s, and that's incredible. And we took something that was made in Italy and turned it into our own Antipodean thing, shared with Australia, I think, that cafe culture, which I'm really drawn to and I really love. However, we're getting a little bit left behind because we're so stuck in our ways of what we've been doing. And so really encourage you to take the time, spend the extra money, get that relationship with what you're drinking more enhanced and more enjoyable, and take someone else on the journey with you. It's great.